Hey, welcome back to the show. Last week we dialed in the guitar tone of Megadeth, So Far So Good So What, using the JCM 800 and a few ODs and things in the front. And in the comments a few of you asked if I'd break down the Set the World Afire riff and just do a bit of a lesson on it, so I guess here we are. I think it's a really great song for any Megadeth fan to learn. I think it's extremely Dave Mustaine. It's got all those sort of subtle nuances and everything about Dave Mustaine that made his playing so awesome in my regard. But anyway, I'll just get straight into it. It starts with that pedaling of the E string. And to make this riff stand out, I've found if you just hold the pick parallel with the strings, you don't have it on an angle like a chainsaw going on. I'm only lightly palm muting and just going up and down. Like I'm trying to let some of that E chord sort of ring through it. I don't just want to get too percussive on it, And I find that when you've got a really basic sort of overdriven Marshall tone, it really comes down to how you play it and the tone that's in your hand and your fingers and things. It's just really light on those strings, and it's just a count of 2.5 bars or 10 beats if you're counting away. And that riff that he just plays up there, it's going from the E up to the F and just sort of shuffling backwards and forwards. So there's a few ways that I've seen Dave actually play that riff. Sometimes I've seen him just go, and he doesn't sort of slide into it. And then other times it's, I don't think there's any right or wrong way to play it as long as you're accenting those with upstrokes. And you're coming back down hard into the riff with the downstroke again. And then the riff evolves just a little tiny bit and he goes from that D walk up to the E. And again, this is all upstrokes. And the way that riff finishes up and it goes through that chromatic section again at the end, you don't actually finish back on the E. You don't go, it's just a, and then straight into the other riff. So I'll just play that riff and just show you exactly how it finishes and how it ties in just to start the next one. I'll just stop there, but hopefully you can just see that only went to the E flat and stopped to the next part of the change. So for the next part of the riff, it's pedaling in counts of 3, but after the first 3 notes on the open E, we go then and we chromatically run from the B flat up to the C. And when you hit the chord, it's a down up, so you really got to accentuate that upstroke. And before we get too far ahead, we'll just play the last riff of the tail end and just tie those in just so you get that count right. So the riff just keeps repeating itself, going from the E up to the G, but on the last time it's, so the E, the G down to the D, and then straight back to the start again. And that just keeps repeating itself, but for the very last time when the riff evolves and turns to the next riff altogether, instead of just ending up on the D there, you go from the D back to the E. And I'll just do that slowly on the last part of that. And this next riff is one of the coolest on the album. It's sort of difficult to do, but once you get the hang of it, it flows really well. But the way that I do it, I use that whole spider chord thing that Dave Mustaine was renowned for, that If you've got that and you can sort of use your power chords using your pinky and the middle finger, the way that he actually wrote this riff, it starts in the E. And I'll just go through now and just play that whole transition piece at speed, and then we'll just break it down again. So with those alternate picks going on as you're chromatically descending, it gets you to the upstroke on the bar chord there. And that riff just keeps repeating itself, and you eventually end up just back on the E there, and that's where the riff just finishes. And then from there the actual verse starts. It's just such an iconic intro to a song. It's really straightforward. It's all just power chords. There's none of the augmented or inverted chord shapes or anything like that. It's just all upstrokes if you can between the chugs. And now again, I'll just do it slowly. And down here it's just a chromatic pull off on the D string. Finishing on the A there, and from there it just goes into like an interlude section to take you to the whole next part of the song, which is really cool. But it starts all palm muting, it starts on the C. If you can do those counts. C down to the B, G down to the F sharp. And then moves up to the D, B flat and A. Then up to the E, C, B. So just to tie in that whole section. And once you hit that B just once, it goes back into the power chord chug down here on the C. And it just finishes on that F there. So I'll just go through this section just really slowly, and hopefully you just pick up the timing there where the change happens from that B straight back to the C again for the riff to almost start again. So hopefully you just catch that. I'll do that last part just slowly. So hopefully you can just see that. That's the only part in this shuffle that just sort of throws your ear out a little bit, but it makes it really cool as well. And the second verse riff that they go into here, it's a little bit hard to explain the timing and just how it's played, but it's just an alternating of E to F, F to E, and then E, F, E. I'll just play it really slowly. Hopefully you just follow. If you just jam along with the track, you'll pick up that timing really simply. And that just keeps repeating throughout the verse. Then you just get to those pauses after the E, F, E. And when that riff finishes, Dave gets into that E swept bar chord, which is really like a... But he does it like an arpeggio and sweeps through it. It's the 12 to the 16, 14, 14, 13, 12, 12, and it's a hammer onto the 16, then just reversing it all the way back down. And the way that Dave actually plays that, he's aggressive on that first two strokes. He doesn't hammer on that 12 to the 16. It's actually like he palm mutes it like it's part of a riff. And after the second time that verse riff is played through, it gets to that cool pick scrape slide. And I'll just go and play that riff just really slowly, all the parts. Hopefully you can just follow along. But it starts just pedaling on the B on the A string. And then again into power chords on the D string. And And then onto the next few chords. Which is fairly straightforward as well. It's the open A to the C, into the B, A, F sharp, and then just to finish the riff off and wind it out, it's going from the G to the B flat down to the F sharp. And then just to finish that riff off completely, it's just going through the, which is just those funny little power chords like the D and the G string followed by the A and the D string. So to tie that whole section in just slowly, it's a cool part of the song. And so hopefully you've just got those chord shapes down and things, but there's a few things just to talk about with how that riff is played for it to sound really cool. And the first one is after you do the pedaling. You notice all those power chords just ring out as I play them, but there's one in particular that you just come down and you just palm mute it and chug it really heavy, and that's on each of these. And the same goes for the next lot of power chords. And then finishing off the riff there when you're pedaling on the G, you're actually doing a bar chord here. You can see I'm just sort of pedaling through it, but you really sort of violently do an upstroke and drag it to the beat, and it's got to slide down. And you have a little tiny bit of a shuffle before you actually start those little dyads. And now moving on to the next riff when you get to that B. This is a super cool riff, really fun to play. And I'll just try and play it really slowly now and really clean just so you can follow. That riff is just really fun and it's straightforward when you play it, but just note every other time it finishes on an F, not the C. At speed. So that riff again, it just repeats itself the whole. You go through that the exact same way, but it just finishes and tails up on the B. And then from there, Dave goes through his cool little lick here. And I'm not exactly sure what he plays every single time. The record's slightly different to live shows. And so the notes that I'm just playing there, just slowly, it's a bend on the B, onto the G, and from there, and the little lick that he plays after that is just like a hammer-on pull-off, like a legato sort of riff. And I'm pretty certain that's what's played mostly. And then it's just a bluesy walk down with a hammer on the A string. So to tie all that in just really slowly. Cool, on to the next part of the riff, and this is really just a tie in the end of the song. You can see it's fairly straightforward. Every second time he ends on the C rather than... And what that is just after the palm mute on the F sharp. It's the 2 strings. And then it gets into the solo time, and it's the exact same riff, but it's on the A on the 5th. And then the last part of the guitar solo, it's the exact same counts and everything, but it just goes down and you palm mute it like you're playing a Slayer riff. And it's a fairly straightforward sort of riff, and that just repeats. But for the last time, just when it morphs into the actual first verse riff again, you move up to the A. And at that point, that's all the riffs in the song. Anything I show you now is just repeating ourselves. But all that being said, guys, I really hope you enjoyed the lesson. I tried to go into the more of the fidelities to how Dave actually plays these and how he gets the sound out of it the way that he does. But again, guys, take care. I'll see you next time. Bye.